Hello! For the last 2.5 years, I've been working on a co-op action RPG in my spare time. It has challenging combat inspired by the Souls games, and a hand-drawn post-apocalyptic landscape, where rotten ghouls are all that remains of humanity, and animals have reclaimed the world. In my last update around 6 months ago, I finished up the first chapter, which introduces players to the setting and combat mechanics. I'm happy to say that since then, I have finished the second chapter, which takes you through a rat-infested cave. In this video, I'll explain exactly what I've been up to, but before I do, I'm really keen to get any and all feedback from players. So if you want to play through the game and let me know your thoughts before I explain how everything works, please check out the link in the description. Thanks. First up, I planned out the layout of the first 6 areas of the caves. We have the entrance, with a blocked exit ahead, an optional side room to the left, and 4 rooms off to the right, with the final room connecting back to the entrance. The entrance will have an NPC trying to clear the blockage ahead. The side room will have enemies and an item to find. The first 3 rooms to the right will contain enemies and another item. Once you reach the final room, the NPC will have cleared the blockage, opening up a shortcut back to the campsite to rest up. I then drew the art for the areas with pencil and paper, got them scanned in and digitally coloured, making sure to include lots of skeletons and relics of the past. I added them into the game and set up some simple lighting consisting of a dark canvas modulate layer and a flickering radial light on the player's lantern. I created some critters to add life to the cave. Small rats, which can be different colours and run away when you get near, and spiders, which can move around their webs. I then created the artwork for some new rat enemies. 3 different sets of armour, light, medium and heavy, 5 different heads, and 3 new weapons. A knife, a hook and a club. I got these added in and used various combinations to create 6 new enemies, ranging from small, quick rats with knives to larger, slower, and more heavily armoured rats. The next thing I added was an inventory system. As you progress through the game, I want you to find new weapons and armour, allowing you to improve your gear and keep up with the power level of the new tougher enemies. To achieve this, I created an inventory script, with a dictionary to keep track of what items have been obtained, and added it to the auto-load list to ensure it is persistent across scene changes. To keep things simple, I decided to have a shared inventory between both players in co-op, meaning when one player finds a new item, both players will be able to use it. I then created a simple inventory user interface, allowing players to look through their weapons and armour, compare their stats, and equip the item if they meet any strength, dexterity and carry capacity requirements. If a requirement is not met, it will be indicated in red. Next, we need a way for the player to acquire new items. I created a chest, which the player can open, which unlocks a predetermined item in their inventory, and displays a message letting them know which item they've found. If they respawn at camp and open a chest for the second time, they instead find bronze, which has no use at the moment but will be used to upgrade your weapon further down the line. To help iron out any bugs I came across, I created a simple debugging overlay, which displays the current stats and states of the player and enemies next to them in game, which is really helpful in determining why something isn't behaving like it should. Initially, I intended to have my game at 1 set difficulty, which is very challenging. However, I found that this effectively prevents less experienced gamers from enjoying themselves. I created a difficulty select screen, both to clearly communicate to players that the game is a serious challenge, and allow them to turn the difficulty down should they wish. I added this to the in-game menu, allowing players to change the difficulty on the fly. I wanted to add some enemy variety, so decided to add a bat. My plan was to have 2 different modes, a grounded mode in which the bat behaves similar to the other enemies in my game, and a flying mode, where the bat will fly away from you and launch itself into a soaring attack. In the grounded mode, the bat has a pounce attack and a swiping attack. In the flying mode, it flies away from you, then launches into a soaring attack. I quickly found that the soaring attack required a large open space to prevent the bat getting stuck, so decided to shelf the bat for use as a one-off boss later, instead of a common enemy. The pounce attack and soar attack are both unblockable, just like the special attack from the boss of the first chapter. I didn't want the player to have to find this out the hard way, through trial and error, so I added a really clear red exclamation mark telegraph to clearly communicate when you should be dodging out of the way. I made a variation on the boss spin attack, with only one rotation, and gave some of the heavier rats the ability to perform it. And now I'd like to introduce you to Emmett, a new non-player character in my game. I'm not 100% sure what creature he is, possibly a wombat, but he can be found trying to mine a direct path through the caves, instead of fighting his way through. Once you make your way past the first 3 rooms of enemies, Emmett will have cleared the first blockage and moved through to the next area, where another blockage is found ahead. This opens up the shortcut back to camp, so you can rest up before continuing on, and means you don't have to redo those first rooms if you respawn. I treated myself to a graphics tablet, which allows me to draw directly on my computer. This is a significant time saver, removing the need to scan and clean up drawings, and work with layers while maintaining the hand-drawn style. I planned out the rest of the caves, 3 more rooms of enemies, an optional side area with a useful item, and finally the boss fight room. Once you reach the boss room, Emmett will have cleared the second blockage, again opening up a shortcut back if you respawn, and unfortunately will have been captured by the bat leader. I got the locations drawn with my new tablet. I don't think they look noticeably different to my pencil and paper locations, but I'd be interested to hear what you think. For the optional side area, I thought it would be nice to have a glimmer of light, so decided to have you momentarily leave the caves to find yourself on the side of a mountain with a view of the ruined city ahead. Next up, I wanted to add a new moveset. Currently, all weapons share the same animations, swiping from left to right. I went through and made new animations for stabbing and got them added to my animation tree. The stabbing attacks have a greater range, but a much narrower hitbox, requiring more accuracy to use. I changed the previously made knife weapon to the stab moveset, and created a spear and a sword that use the new moveset too. I created new rat variants that use the new weapons and scattered them around the caves. I also modified the bat to create a rat which moves on all 4s to add more variety. The bat needed a bit more work to feel like a proper boss fight. I made a mask, with the idea being that it pretends to be a fellow rat to rule over the rest of the cave's inhabitants. The fight begins in the grounded state. Once you have depleted half of its health, it rips the mask off, revealing its true identity and unleashing a wave of sonar blasts. Then, the boss will switch between the grounded mode and the flying mode, occasionally shooting another sonar blast at you. Once defeated, the cage containing Emmett will drop, allowing you to free him. He will then clear the final blockage, allowing you to exit the caves and start chapter 3, but I haven't got that far yet. Finally, the caves needed a soundtrack. I decided to keep it simple and work with 2 instruments, my bass and my omnichord. First, some ominous notes from the omnichord. Then we introduce the chords, and some offbeat dripping. The bass comes in with a simple repeating descending bass line. And finally, the drums. For the boss fight, the bass picks up tempo and the chords are removed. We introduce additional percussion once you start the fight. And switch it up once you reach the halfway mark. Finally, we modulate to the major key and reintroduce the chords for a triumphant outro once the boss is defeated. And with that, Chapter 2 is playable in its entirety. Please do give it a play if it looks interesting to you and let me know your thoughts. Any feedback is greatly appreciated. Thanks for watching.